It began as a hushed conversation behind Kensington Palace walls, one that aides tried to downplay and courtiers quickly silenced. But the look on Princess Catherine's face, as she exited that private meeting, said everything the palace couldn't. Something was wrong, and it involved Charlotte. What was first dismissed as a rumor soon turned into a royal firestorm, now confirmed by the very people who fought to protect it. Before we go deeper into what this really means for the royal family, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss a single update. For days, rumors drifted quietly through royal circles, dismissed by officials as speculation, and brushed aside by those determined to maintain calm. Yet behind the carefully controlled statements and reassuring public appearances, a different story was beginning to emerge. According to reports circulating among palace insiders, a private meeting had been arranged involving Princess Catherine, Prince William, and a group of trusted medical advisors. The gathering was not listed on any public schedule. No announcement was made, no explanation was offered. And that unusual silence immediately caught the attention of those who spend their lives watching every movement inside the royal household. What made the situation even more unsettling was the level of secrecy that appeared to surround it. Palace aides, normally eager to shut down inaccurate stories, suddenly became unusually cautious. Questions were met with vague responses. Conversations ended abruptly. Staff members who were known for sharing harmless details with royal correspondents seemed unwilling to say a word. It was as though an invisible line had been drawn, and everyone understood that crossing it was not an option. That alone was enough to spark concern among experienced observers, who knew that such extraordinary discretion was rarely exercised without reason. Then came reports of what some sources described as a sudden health development involving Princess Charlotte. The details remained frustratingly unclear, which only intensified speculation. People began searching for clues in every appearance, every schedule adjustment, every unexpected change. The uncertainty created an atmosphere of tension that seemed to spread beyond palace walls. Questions multiplied far faster than answers. Why had senior medical advisors been called in? Why was the palace refusing to address the growing whispers directly? And perhaps most importantly, what had happened that left even seasoned royal staff appearing visibly unsettled? Observers claim that when Catherine emerged from the meeting, her expression told a story no official statement could hide. Those present reportedly noticed a level of concern, rarely seen from a princess known for composure and discipline. The woman who had spent years presenting strength under pressure appeared deeply affected. Later that evening, reports surfaced that William had been seen comforting Charlotte during a private family moment. To many, that detail transformed vague rumors into something far more serious. Suddenly, the whispers no longer felt distant or exaggerated. They felt real. Yet some royal correspondents would later reveal that signs of trouble may have existed long before the public became aware. Media insiders quietly admitted that something had felt unusual for weeks. Small changes, unexplained adjustments, a growing sense that events were unfolding behind closed doors. At the time, few could identify exactly what was wrong. Now, however, those scattered observations seemed to be forming a larger and far more troubling picture, one that extended well beyond a single meeting and pointed toward something hidden deep within the foundations of the monarchy itself. But the chilling truth wasn't just about Charlotte's health. It was tied to a royal legacy that had long been buried until now. The first sign that something extraordinary had happened came not from an official statement, but from silence. The great doors of Westminster stood open for everyone except one woman. And within minutes, whispers began spreading through royal circles that Queen Camilla had been stopped before she could even cross the threshold. The rumors surrounding Princess Charlotte had already unsettled the palace, creating an atmosphere thick with uncertainty and private concern. Yet while attention remained focused on the questions surrounding the young princess, another development was quietly unfolding elsewhere, one that would soon shake royal circles in an entirely different way. What began as an ordinary day on the royal calendar was suddenly transformed into a moment that many insiders would later describe as impossible to ignore. The Westminster gathering had been expected to proceed like countless others before it. Senior royals were anticipated. Preparations had been completed. Schedules had been approved. Nothing about the event suggested controversy. And yet, by the end of the day, it was not the ceremony itself that people were discussing. It was who reportedly never made it through the door. According to growing whispers circulating among royal observers, Queen Camilla arrived expecting the same access she had received for years. There was no reason to believe otherwise. Her position within the institution appeared secure, her role publicly recognized, and her presence at major royal occasions had become a familiar part of the monarchy's modern image. Yet something felt different. Palace staff reportedly appeared unusually restrained. Conversations became shorter. Familiar routines seemed interrupted by an undercurrent of tension that few could explain but many could sense. It was as though people had been informed that an important decision had already been made, while being instructed not to discuss it openly. Then came the moment that transformed quiet unease into palace-wide speculation. Reports suggest that security officers stationed at Westminster appeared noticeably tense as final arrivals approached. Those who witnessed the scene later described an atmosphere unlike anything they had experienced during previous royal events. No raised voices were reported. No dramatic confrontations supposedly occurred. In fact, that was precisely what made the incident so startling. Everything remained calm, professional, controlled. Yet beneath that calm exterior was something undeniably significant. A message had reportedly been delivered. An instruction had allegedly been followed. And the outcome left even experienced observers struggling to understand what they had just witnessed. Sources began claiming that a quiet but firm refusal had taken place. No explanation was publicly offered. No immediate clarification emerged from official channels. But within royal circles, speculation exploded. Witnesses reportedly found themselves replaying the moment repeatedly, searching for some detail that might explain what had happened. Why would such an unprecedented decision be made? Why now? And who possessed the authority to issue an instruction capable of producing such a remarkable outcome? As the hours passed, the rumors only grew stronger. Attention shifted away from Westminster itself and toward the question of responsibility. More specifically, toward the identity of the person whose influence could potentially override long-established expectations. Before long, one name began appearing in nearly every whispered conversation. According to palace speculation, the instruction may not have originated from security officials at all. Instead, rumors suggested it traced back to a far more powerful source. A source known throughout the monarchy for discipline, duty, and an unwavering commitment to protocol. The possibility seemed almost unbelievable, yet the whispers refused to disappear. As questions spread through the palace corridors, attention quickly turned to the one royal capable of issuing such a controversial instruction. For decades, Princess Anne had earned a reputation that few dared challenge. She was not the loudest royal, nor the most photographed, but when protocol mattered, her word often carried the weight of royal law. As speculation surrounding the Westminster incident intensified, the conversation gradually shifted away from Queen Camilla and toward the royal figure whose name seemed to appear behind every whispered theory. For many observers, the possibility was not difficult to imagine. Princess Anne had spent her entire adult life building a reputation unlike anyone else within the monarchy. While others attracted headlines through glamour, controversy, or public popularity, Anne earned something very different. She earned trust. Not the fleeting trust that comes from favorable publicity, but the deeper confidence that develops when a person consistently places duty above personal comfort. That reputation had become one of the most powerful forms of influence within royal circles, and it explained why so many people suddenly found themselves asking the same question. If an extraordinary instruction had truly been issued, was Anne the one capable of giving it? The answer seemed possible because Anne's entire royal journey had been defined by discipline. Through changing governments, family crises, public scandals, and historic transitions, she remained remarkably consistent. While others adapted to shifting public expectations, Anne remained anchored to the principles she believed protected the institution itself. To her supporters, that made her indispensable. To her critics, it made her intimidating. Yet even those who disagreed with her rarely questioned her commitment. She had developed a reputation for approaching royal responsibilities with an almost relentless sense of purpose, and over time that dedication transformed her into one of the monarchy's most respected figures. What made Anne particularly influential was her willingness to enforce standards regardless of status. Throughout the years, stories emerged describing moments when rank offered no protection from her expectations. Senior royals, junior royals, aides, advisors, and officials were all reportedly treated according to the same principle. Rules existed for a reason. Protocol existed for a reason. And if those standards were weakened, Anne believed the institution itself could suffer. That consistency created a unique kind of authority. It was not authority granted by title alone. It was authority earned through decades of unwavering commitment. At the same time, the monarchy was entering an especially sensitive period. Public confidence mattered more than ever, Internal stability mattered more than ever. Every decision carried greater weight because the institution was navigating a time of uncertainty, transition, and intense scrutiny. According to royal commentators, concerns about image, unity, and public perception were being discussed at increasingly senior levels. Small issues could rapidly become major controversies. Minor disagreements could evolve into national headlines. In such an environment, experienced judgment became one of the monarchy's most valuable resources. That reality reportedly led many senior officials to rely heavily on Anne's perspective. She was viewed by some as a stabilizing force during moments when emotions threatened to cloud decision-making. While others debated possibilities, Anne was often perceived as focusing on consequences. What protected the institution? What preserved public confidence? What safeguarded the monarchy's future? These questions supposedly guided her thinking, and they helped explain why many insiders believed she might act when others hesitated. Yet, even among those who admired her dedication, there was growing uncertainty. The Westminster rumors were becoming increasingly difficult to dismiss. The idea that a senior royal had allegedly been denied access was already astonishing. The possibility that such an action might have originated from Anne's sphere of influence seemed even more extraordinary. For all her reputation as a defender of tradition, there remained an uncomfortable question. Had something occurred behind closed doors serious enough to justify such a dramatic decision? The answer remained hidden, but not for much longer, because as palace whispers continued spreading, fragments of information reportedly began surfacing from unexpected places, and those fragments would soon leave even Anne's most loyal supporters struggling to process what they were hearing. But even Anne's strongest supporters were stunned when details of the alleged security order began emerging behind closed doors. According to Palace Whispers, the instruction was remarkably simple. No confrontation, no public scene. Just one directive that would leave Westminster security with no room for interpretation. The rumors surrounding Princess Anne's possible involvement had already transformed an unusual incident into a growing royal mystery. Yet, as more information allegedly began circulating among palace insiders, the focus shifted from who might have issued the order to the order itself. Those familiar with the speculation described something surprisingly straightforward. There were reportedly no dramatic discussions, no emotional confrontations, and no complicated series of instructions. Instead, Palace Whispers suggested that a single directive had been communicated clearly and directly. Its simplicity was precisely what made it so powerful. There was no ambiguity, no room for negotiation, no opportunity for interpretation. Those responsible for carrying it out allegedly understood exactly what was expected of them. As details continued emerging through unofficial channels, reports began suggesting that specific access restrictions had been put into place before the Westminster event even began. If true, that meant the decision had not been made spontaneously. It had been considered in advance. Procedures had reportedly been reviewed. Responsibilities had been assigned. The possibility that such preparations existed raised even more questions than answers. Royal events often depended upon careful planning, but this appeared different. Something about the situation suggested intentionality, and that realization quickly intensified the growing sense of unease throughout royal circles. Security personnel reportedly became central figures in the unfolding controversy. According to various accounts, those tasked with overseeing entry procedures simply followed the instructions they had been given. They did not debate them. They did not modify them. They executed them exactly as directed. That detail became particularly important because it shifted attention away from the individuals enforcing the decision and toward the person or persons who had authorized it. If security officers were merely carrying out orders, then the true story remained hidden somewhere higher within the royal structure. The situation reportedly caught several senior aides by surprise. Individuals accustomed to understanding palace operations suddenly found themselves struggling to explain what had happened. Conversations became increasingly speculative. Some believed the decision reflected concerns that had been developing privately for some time. Others insisted there had to be another explanation, one that had not yet surfaced publicly. The lack of clarity created an environment where rumors flourished. Every new theory seemed to generate 3 more questions. Every attempt to provide answers only deepened the mystery. Confusion soon spread beyond senior officials and into broader royal staff circles. People who normally understood their place within the system reportedly found themselves trying to piece together fragments of information from different sources. Some believed the situation represented a routine protocol matter that had been exaggerated. Others suspected something much larger was unfolding behind closed doors. The uncertainty itself became a source of tension. In an institution built on order, confusion is often more unsettling than conflict, because it suggests that important information remains hidden. Meanwhile, debate intensified over one critical issue: who had actually approved the decision? Names circulated, theories emerged. Some pointed toward administrative offices. Others focused on senior advisors. Yet no explanation seemed to satisfy growing curiosity. Every path eventually appeared to lead back toward the same possibility. And with each passing hour, speculation surrounding Princess Anne became increasingly difficult to ignore. What made the situation even more remarkable was how quickly the story spread without any official confirmation. The palace remained silent. No public explanation arrived, yet the silence itself seemed to fuel the controversy. Journalists began asking questions. Commentators started connecting unrelated events. Palace watchers sensed that they were witnessing the early stages of a much larger story. The Westminster incident was no longer being viewed as an isolated moment. It was becoming a symbol of something deeper, something connected to tensions and concerns that had allegedly been building for far longer than anyone realized. And then came the development that truly changed everything. Because according to the whispers circulating through palace corridors, the most startling revelation had nothing to do with the instruction itself. The directive was only a symptom. The real story was the motive behind it. If the rumors were correct, the order had not been issued because of protocol alone. It had allegedly been driven by a concern so significant that some insiders believed it threatened the stability of relationships at the very highest levels of the monarchy. Yet the real shock was not the order itself. It was the reason insiders believed it had been issued in the first place. Behind the polished ceremonies and carefully rehearsed appearances, a struggle had reportedly been unfolding for months. Few members of the public knew it existed, but inside royal circles, the atmosphere had become increasingly difficult to ignore. The rumors surrounding the Westminster incident had already raised serious questions, but according to palace whispers, that episode was merely the surface of a much deeper conflict. As speculation continued to spread, a broader picture allegedly began taking shape. It was a picture not of a single disagreement or isolated misunderstanding, but of a growing divide within the highest levels of the monarchy itself. To the public, the royal family continued presenting unity, stability, and continuity. Yet behind that carefully maintained image, insiders reportedly described an environment filled with uncertainty, competing priorities, and increasingly difficult decisions. The tension was not always visible, but many believed it had been building quietly for months. According to those familiar with royal affairs, differences had begun emerging among senior figures regarding the future direction of the institution. These were not necessarily personal disputes. They were questions of philosophy, responsibility, and long-term strategy. As the monarchy faced unprecedented challenges, many believed difficult choices had become unavoidable. What kind of royal family should emerge in the years ahead? How should authority be exercised? Who should hold influence during periods of transition? These questions reportedly generated conversations that were far more significant than any public disagreement could ever reveal. At the center of many discussions were concerns about influence and authority. The monarchy had always operated through a delicate balance of relationships, traditions, and responsibilities. However, as circumstances evolved, some insiders allegedly began questioning whether that balance was changing. Certain royal figures appeared to be gaining greater influence over key decisions, while others faced growing scrutiny from those concerned about the institution's future. The resulting uncertainty created an atmosphere where every action seemed to carry additional meaning. Every decision was analyzed. Every absence was noticed. Every unexpected development became part of a larger conversation. Within this environment, reports increasingly suggested that Princess Anne and Prince William had developed a particularly strong understanding regarding the monarchy's future. Observers noted that both figures were often associated with stability, continuity, and a commitment to preserving institutional credibility. While neither publicly addressed the rumors, palace commentators frequently pointed to their shared emphasis on duty and responsibility. According to speculation, their perspectives on certain issues appeared increasingly aligned, creating the impression of a partnership focused on protecting the monarchy during a challenging period. At the same time, Queen Camilla's position reportedly faced renewed examination. It was not necessarily a matter of official status. Rather, Insiders suggested that questions were being raised about influence, priorities, and public perception. As the institution navigated sensitive challenges, every royal role came under greater scrutiny. Decisions that might once have attracted little attention suddenly carried symbolic significance. In such an environment, even routine developments could become sources of controversy. For Camilla, that meant finding herself at the center of conversations she may never have expected. What made the situation especially difficult was the uncertainty surrounding it all. Palace insiders reportedly described an atmosphere where few people felt confident, predicting what might happen next. Rumors circulated faster than facts. Assumptions competed with reality. Some believed the tensions were temporary and would eventually fade. Others feared they represented the early stages of a much larger struggle over influence and direction. The Westminster controversy only intensified those concerns, causing many to revisit events that had previously seemed insignificant. With every passing day, the sense of anticipation reportedly grew stronger. Staff members watched carefully. Royal commentators searched for clues. Journalists continued asking questions. Yet despite all the speculation, one crucial reality remained unchanged. The monarchy still required leadership capable of balancing competing interests while preserving unity. And according to palace whispers, there was one person more affected by that burden than anyone else. A man whose responsibilities placed him directly between the competing forces now, pulling at the institution from different directions. As the internal struggle intensified, one figure found himself caught directly between loyalty and responsibility. No one understood the consequences of the situation more than King Charles. Every development seemed to place him in an increasingly uncomfortable position, forcing him to balance family relationships against the demands of the institution itself. As rumors continued spreading through royal circles, attention inevitably shifted toward the one figure positioned at the center of every competing interest. King Charles had spent years preparing for the responsibilities of the crown, yet according to palace insiders, few could have anticipated a challenge quite like this one. The controversy surrounding Westminster was no longer a simple question of protocol. It had evolved into something far more sensitive. Personal relationships, institutional stability, public confidence, and royal authority were suddenly intersecting in ways that left little room for easy solutions. And at the heart of that increasingly complex situations stood a king who reportedly found himself pulled in multiple directions at once. For Charles, the difficulty was not simply political. It was deeply personal. On one side were family loyalties that could not easily be dismissed. On the other stood the obligations attached to the monarchy itself. Those responsibilities demanded decisions based not on emotion, but on what was perceived to be best for the institution. According to royal commentators, that balancing act had become increasingly difficult as tensions inside the palace continued growing. Every choice risked upsetting someone. Every effort to preserve harmony seemed to create new complications elsewhere. The result was a situation that reportedly left even experienced royal observers questioning how long the delicate balance could be maintained. Adding to the pressure were growing concerns about public perception. The monarchy had survived countless storms throughout its history, but it depended heavily upon an image of unity and stability. The Westminster controversy threatened to challenge both. Questions were being asked. Rumors were multiplying. Speculation was spreading beyond palace walls and into the broader public conversation. According to insiders, there was increasing awareness that silence alone might not be enough to contain the story. Yet addressing it directly carried risks of its own. Every possible response seemed capable of creating fresh controversy. At the same time, the burden of maintaining stability reportedly weighed heavily on senior members of the royal household. Advisors understood that uncertainty could become dangerous if allowed to grow unchecked. The institution relied on predictability. It relied on confidence. It relied on the belief that those guiding it remained firmly in control. Yet behind closed doors, reports suggested that discussions had become increasingly urgent. Questions once considered hypothetical were now being debated seriously. What if tensions continued escalating? What if the divisions became impossible to hide? What if public curiosity transformed into a full-scale crisis? According to palace whispers, private discussions among senior royals became more frequent as concerns intensified. Different perspectives reportedly emerged regarding the best path forward. Some favored caution. Others reportedly believed decisive action would be necessary before the situation worsened. Although details remained closely guarded, Insiders suggested these conversations reflected a growing recognition that the controversy could no longer be dismissed as a passing distraction. Too many questions remained unanswered. Too many rumors refused to disappear. Meanwhile, advisors allegedly placed increasing pressure on those responsible for managing the institution's future. Every day without clarity appeared to strengthen speculation. Every unanswered question created additional uncertainty. As a result, many observers began wondering whether the dispute had already reached a turning point. Had events progressed too far to be quietly resolved? Or was there still an opportunity to restore stability before lasting damage occurred? That uncertainty became the most troubling aspect of all. Nobody seemed entirely sure how far the situation might go. What began as whispers surrounding a single event had expanded into a broader conversation about influence, authority, and the future direction of the monarchy. The stakes appeared to grow with every passing day. And while King Charles reportedly struggled to navigate the competing loyalties surrounding him, forces beyond his immediate control were already beginning to reshape the controversy in ways few had anticipated. Because outside Westminster, the story was no longer confined to palace corridors. It was spreading, evolving, and moving toward a stage where the consequences could become far more difficult to contain. But while the king struggled with difficult choices, events outside Westminster were already pushing the controversy into dangerous territory. What began as a quiet incident at a single doorway soon exploded into one of the most talked about royal controversies of the year. Suddenly, everyone seemed to have a theory, and every new rumor raised even more questions. The Westminster incident had already generated intense discussion inside royal circles, but what happened next pushed the story far beyond palace walls. Within days, a situation that reportedly began with a single instruction became the focus of nationwide speculation. Questions that once circulated only among royal insiders suddenly appeared everywhere. Commentators discussed them. Journalists investigated them. Members of the public debated them. The controversy seemed to take on a life of its own, growing larger with every retelling and becoming increasingly difficult for anyone to control. What made the situation particularly remarkable was that so few verified details existed. Yet despite the lack of official confirmation, interest continued accelerating at a pace that surprised even experienced royal observers. Media speculation intensified almost immediately. Every development was analyzed from multiple angles. Every rumor was examined for hidden meaning. News outlets sought explanations for what had allegedly occurred, while royal correspondents attempted to separate fact from speculation. Yet the deeper journalists looked, the more complicated the story appeared to become. Different sources provided different interpretations. Some suggested the incident reflected a straightforward protocol matter. Others argued it pointed toward deeper tensions within the monarchy. As competing narratives emerged, certainty became increasingly difficult to find. Royal commentators soon entered the debate as well. Some focused on Princess Anne's reputation for discipline and institutional loyalty. Others examined the broader questions surrounding influence and authority that had reportedly been building for months. Many observers agreed on one point. If the rumors surrounding Westminster were accurate, the implications could extend far beyond a single event. That possibility transformed the story from an isolated controversy into something far more significant. Suddenly, discussions were no longer limited to what happened. They centered on what it might mean. Public reaction proved equally divided. Some people expressed support for the idea that protocol should be enforced consistently regardless of status. Others questioned whether such an extraordinary measure should ever have been considered. Social conversations became increasingly polarized as new theories emerged daily. Supporters and critics interpreted the same rumors in completely different ways. The result was an atmosphere where certainty seemed almost impossible. Every answer generated fresh disagreement. Every explanation produced new questions. Meanwhile, pressure on the palace reportedly continued growing. Silence had initially appeared to be the preferred strategy, but maintaining that silence became increasingly difficult as public interest expanded. Observers began noting that the lack of clarification was contributing to the controversy rather than containing it. Yet issuing a response carried risks as well. Any statement could potentially validate speculation or create additional complications. According to palace watchers, officials appeared trapped between competing concerns, unsure whether speaking publicly would help or worsen the situation. Conflicting reports only deepened the confusion. Some accounts suggested one version of events. Others described something entirely different. Each new claim seemed to contradict a previous one. The inconsistency made it nearly impossible for the public to determine what had actually happened. Yet paradoxically, the uncertainty fueled even greater fascination. People became more invested because the truth remained elusive. The mystery itself became part of the story. What had started as a whispered discussion about a doorway now dominated conversations about the monarchy's future, its leadership, and its internal dynamics. Few could have predicted how quickly the controversy would expand, or how many people would become invested in its outcome. Yet as the speculation reached its peak, a new rumor reportedly began circulating among those closest to royal affairs. According to insiders, there was one final piece of the puzzle that had not yet fully emerged. And if those whispers proved accurate, everything people thought they understood about the Westminster incident might soon be reconsidered. Yet amid all the speculation, one final revelation threatened to change how the entire incident would be remembered. In the end, many believed the refusal at Westminster was never simply about access. It was about power, authority, and the future direction of the monarchy itself. The closed door had become a symbol of something much larger. After weeks of speculation, competing narratives, and unanswered questions, the Westminster controversy evolved into something far more significant than the incident that supposedly started it. What had initially appeared to be a dispute over access gradually became a debate about influence, responsibility, and the forces shaping the future of the royal institution. The reason the story captured so much attention was not because of a doorway. It was because people sensed that the doorway represented something deeper. A symbol, a message, perhaps even a warning. According to royal observers, the public fascination endured because many believed the incident reflected tensions that had existed beneath the surface for far longer than anyone realized. At the center of those discussions was the role of protocol itself. To outsiders, protocol can sometimes appear outdated or ceremonial. Yet within the monarchy, it serves a much larger purpose. It establishes order, it defines responsibilities, it protects continuity. Throughout history, protocol has often functioned as the invisible framework holding the institution together during periods of uncertainty. That is why so many commentators focused on the symbolic meaning of the alleged refusal. If the rumors were true, then the incident was never simply about one individual. It was about the principle that no person, regardless of position, stands above the rules that govern the institution. The controversy also reinforced perceptions surrounding Princess Anne's. For decades, she had built a reputation based on discipline, consistency, and an unwavering commitment to duty. Whether one agreed with her methods or not, few questioned her dedication to preserving the monarchy's stability. As speculation connected her name to the events at Westminster, supporters viewed her as a guardian of tradition. Critics questioned whether tradition alone could explain what had happened. Yet regardless of perspective, one fact became increasingly clear. Anne remained one of the most influential and respected figures within royal life, capable of shaping conversations even when she remained publicly silent. For Queen Camilla, the situation carried a different significance. The controversy highlighted how dramatically public perceptions can evolve over time. Years of effort had gone into establishing her place within the monarchy and reshaping public opinion. Yet the Westminster rumors demonstrated how quickly old questions could return. Suddenly, discussions surrounding her role, influence, and position once again dominated headlines and conversations. Fairly or unfairly, she found herself at the center of a debate that extended far beyond her own actions. The contrast was striking. The same institution that had once celebrated stability was now confronting renewed uncertainty about how its most senior figures were perceived. Perhaps the most important lesson involved the monarchy's future. The Westminster story revealed an institution standing at a crossroads. New generations were assuming greater responsibilities. Established figures continued defending long-held traditions. Public expectations continued evolving. Every decision appeared to carry greater significance because it reflected competing visions for what the monarchy should become. According to many observers, that reality explained why the controversy resonated so strongly. It was never just about the present. It was about what comes next. The lasting consequences may not be measured by official statements or public explanations. Instead, they may be measured by the questions the incident left behind. Questions about authority, questions about influence, questions about how the monarchy will navigate future challenges while preserving the stability that has defined it for generations. Even if the full truth never becomes known, the Westminster controversy ensured that those questions would remain part of the conversation for years to come. And as Westminster returned to its usual routine, one question continued to linger through palace corridors. Was this merely an isolated incident, or the first sign of an even greater royal reckoning yet to come? Thanks for watching. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, and we will see you in next one.